Hello everyone, welcome back again to our discussion about economics. And before we jump into our third lecture, so let me recall first of what we have discussed during our first and the second meeting. And during the first meeting, we discussed the reason why there's a need for us to study economics and the very obvious reasons. Uh, I told you that have to study economics because of the reason of scarcity of limited resources. And we have discussed the concept of microeconomics at household level and as well as individual firm level. And we also discussed about the different economic principles, 10 economic principles in decision making of the households and the firm, and how the household or firms interacts with the market based on the different factors that affecting their decision. Okay, sinabi natin that the people is a rational being, and people think of a margin, and all the rest. Now we have 10 principles. And today, let us continue our discussion with assumptions and model. Okay, so assumptions and model. Okay, uh, in a complex world, so in our decision making, there are many factors affecting our decision making, no? And that factors could be added to a model so that it will serve as the simplified basis in looking a complex world. So now, assumptions and model. Alright, so padaplin ka dyan. Dito tas. Okay, assumption and model, what is it? So assumptions and models. Assumption simplifies the complex world, make it easier to understand. Okay, let me show my pointer first. Okay, so assumptions simplify the complex world and make it easier to understand. Simplify to make it easy, no? Okay, so yun ang pinaka-purpose ng assumption. So assumption simplifies the complex worlds, make it easier to understand. And what about model? Model, a highly simplified representation. So this is a kind of simplified representation of a more complicated reality, a complex reality. Economists and economics, no? Economists use models to study economic issues, no? Ano bang mga economic issues natin? We have prices, we have inflation, we have unemployment. So marami tayong mga increase in price, demand, supply. So those concepts needs to be simplified so that we can understand it easily. Okay? So we have to express the complex world in a short representation in the form of model, formula, equation. So, so our first model in economics. We have the circular flow diagram. So we have to present the circular flow diagram so that we can understand easily the workings of different economic variables and how the decision of the people in the market is being affected by the different factors surrounding them. Okay, so that is the first model. We have the circular flow diagram. And somehow this circular flow diagram facilitate or enhance our understanding about economics, no? Enhance our understanding about economics. Okay? Understanding, di makita. Okay? So the circular flow diagram, it is a visual model. So makita na to, no? Makita. Imbis abstract siya, ato siyang i-represent para atong masabtan ng makita dali masabtan. Okay? A circular flow diagram is a visual model of economy. Shows how dollars or how money flows through the markets among households and the firm. No? Using the circular flow diagram, So somehow we can understand how the money flows from the industries, from the firm, back to the household, to the family, and the money from the family, how it will able to go back to the firms. No, so I mean to say the circular flow diagram, it will represent how the money flows from the household and into the different firms. No, okay, so let's proceed. So the circular flow diagram, so we have in here, so the component of a circular flow diagram, we have a household, okay, and we also have, what is this? We also have a firm. Now we have the firm. Okay, a household, of course, ang mga balay, so ang mga tao, no, own the factor of production. So, ang mga tao, sila ang nagtag-iya sa factor of production. Ano yung mga factor of production? So, mga factor of productions include the labor, no, mga trabahante, no. Kasama din sa household ang rent, uh, sell or rent them to firms for income. Sila ang nagtag-iya sa factors of production para ilang ibaligya dito sa mga kumpanya ang ilang factor of production para na sila sweldo, may mo nang magamit na sa market. Okay? So, household buy and consume goods and services. Also, ang household, sila ang tag-iya sa factor of production because one of the factor of production is land, labor, no, services. Yan ang mga factor of production. So, uban pa. So, ang labor, ang mag-provide sa labor dito sa kumpanya, sa mga trabahante, ang mga balay-balay, ang household. And also, household, palito nila ang produkto nga na-produce sa mga kumpanya nga ilang magamit sa ilang balay. So, again, so the household is the owner of factor production and sell or rent them, so rent that production, factor production to the firms for income, para nasa income. And also, the household buys and consume goods and services produced by the firm. So, yun na po. And on the other hand, the firm, okay, on the other hand, the firm, ilang paliton ang factor of production aron magamit nila sa pagproduce og mga produkto. Of course, kanang factor of production, ilan ang kuhaon dito sa household. Okay? Kaya ang household man tag-iya ang factor of production, ibaligya nila dito sa firm. Okay? So the firms buy or hire factors of production, use them to produce goods and services. So kung di sila mo hire og labor, di sila mo hire og mga tao, di sila ka-produce og goods, no? Di sila wala sa production. Okay? And also the firms sell goods and services. So kung saan na-produce dito sa firms, sa mga kumpanya, sa mga industries, ila po nang ibaligya dito sa household. So yung tanawan, ang kwarta, magtuyok-tuyok lang, no? So if you look at this one, okay, like for example, going back to the household, ang household is the owner of factor of production. The factor of productions, we have the land, labor, and capital. Itong land, kung gikan to sa household, so rentahan ito ng firms, no? Para magamit ng firms sa production. Itong labor naman, trabaho, gikan sa household, i-hire sa kumpanya para makaproduce siya og products and services. Okay? So, the households owns the labor, land, and capital. Markets for factors of production, ibaligyan nito sa firm so that it will use, ang factor of production is used by the firm for productions of goods and services. Okay, like for instance, no, the firms, no, produce goods and services and sold to the household. So the markets for goods and services, it will be bought by the household, goods and services bought by the household. Of course, ang kwarta ra pod nga gibayad sa household sa ilang gipalit sa ilang goods and services, maoro po to ilang sweldo o ilang halin sa ilahang paghatag sa labor, land, and capital dito sa kumpanya. You see, kung imong tanawon, ang kwarta ga libot-libot lang when we look at the circular flow model or diagram. Okay? So, on the other hand, itong firms, kay gihire, nagkuha man sila factor of production gikan sa household, ila po nang bayaran, no? So ilaha in terms kung trabaho, wages, kung land, kung land is ilahan ng rentahan, no? Nga ilan ang isweldo diri sa mga household in a form of income. Okay? And that income gamiton pud sa household to spend sa pagpalit for goods and services that has been produced by the firm. Okay? So that's how we look at the circular flow diagram, but just very simple representations. But somehow we have gained our understanding how the money flow in the market in a simple representations of a household and the firm. Okay, so I hope you understand that. So let's proceed now. So there are some market forces, the market forces of supply and demand. Okay. So market, when we say a market, is a group of buyers, sellers of particular product. So it's a group of buyers and sellers of a particular product. So when we say market, market takes place kung na ay exchange of goods and services and exchange of money. For example, na ay duha ka tawo magpalit siya og baboy. So ang baboy gibaligya sa product, then bayaran dayon sa malitay sa money. So there's an exchange between products and money, exchange of commodity and money. The value of that commodity is the price of that product. So markets take place. So dilibot pasabot nga ang market naalang dito sa merkado, naalang dito sa palengke. But market takes place anywhere for as long as there's exchange of goods and services, and that goods and services will be exchanged with money based on the value of that goods and services. So ang merkado dilibot pasabot nga naagi diha sa palengke. So merkado happens anywhere for as long as the exchange of goods and services and the value of that good will be paid in the form of money. So markets take place. Okay. So competitive market. So we have another term. We have a competitive market. Is one with many buyers, many sellers. Each has a negligible effect on price. Competitive market is kanang bitaw nga di sa market nga pwede bisag kinsa maligya, no? Bahala ka, maligya ka bisan kinsa maligya. Walay magbuot sa imong unsa imong baligya. Walay magbuot kung kinsay mo baligya. So free entry of sellers, no? So pwede ka maligya bisan unsa. Walay magbuot nimo in a competitive market. And many buyers, many sellers, and yung mga buyers and sellers has no or negligible effect on price. Mamaligya sila, daghan na malitay, daghan na maligya ay, pero ang mamalitay o mamaligya ay wala sila control over the price, because the price is completely controlled by the law of supply and demand. So tungod kidaghan kayo nga mga manindahay, pwede pare-parehong produkto, lahi-lahing produkto, bisag unsa nga produkto, nya daghan po kaayo buyers, but silang tanan wala sila control sa price, because the price in this situation in a competitive market is not controlled by a certain institution or certain individual. Okay? So sama sa atong usual nga panghitabo at natin sa merkado, dahan kayo nagbaligya, kung imong tan-awon ang ilang price is pare-pareho lang, no? So wala kay sobrang taas, wala kay sobrang baba. Kay kung pasobra pud silang taas, nya pareho silang produkto, wala sila halin. No? Kung sobra pud sila baba, malugi po sila. Okay? So, ano nga case, sa competitive market, daghang buyers, daghang sellers, lain-lain produkto, ang buyers o sellers diha walay control sa price. Maliban na lang siguro sa monopoly, kung siya lang isa ang nagbaligya ng produktuha, wala sa kompetensya, monopolize niyang product, then under the monopoly market or market monopoly, so control sa price ang tag-iya sa product. Kay siya ra may tag-iya sa product, nga siya ra po nag-produce ana, labi na importante ang iyang product. So mapatasan niyang price, mo palit jud ang mga tao. Walay laing kapilian. no choice kung ingon ana. But in a competitive market, dilingan ang concept. Sa competitive market, daghan buyers, daghan sellers, lain-lain ng mga product, but ang buyers o sellers wala sila control over the price because the price is controlled by the law of supply and demand. So, klaro. So we have another term. We have the perfect competitive, perfectly competitive, no, market. So completely competitive market. All goods exactly the same. No, parehas la goods, no. Anang ang market. The buyers and sellers. So daghang kay buyers, daghang sellers. That no one can affect the market price. Wala sila control sa price. Each of them, either seller or the buyer, they only they are all a price taker. So kano yung price na set up by the market based on demand and supply, yun talaga ang price. Dili sila ka-control because kung mag-control sila sa price, mas sobrang pataas, yun, dito mapalit sa pikas kay daghang competition, no? Yan ang sinabi ko. Uh, well, in this chapter, so we assume market is perfectly competitive. So sa atong discussion, as we go along with this subject, particularly in microeconomics, so we'll be assuming that the market is perfectly competitive. So namoy market nga monopolistic, but later on we have to discuss that. So let us tune in our mind that in this discussion, the market is perfectly competitive and that the sellers and buyers are price taker. Okay, so we have demand. So the demand, of course, demand kanang atong gustong paliton, gustong makuha, no? Gusto nato, that's demand. So we have the term in here, the quantity demanded. So the quantity demanded of any goods or any good is the amount of good that buyers are willing and able to purchase. So pag sinabing demand, mauna ang gidaghanon sa good, amount of good that buyers willing to buy and able to purchase. So kaya nimo gusto gidaghanon sa imong ipalit ug kaya nimo bayaran, yan ang demand. But let me clear it first as to what is goods. Good. O pag sinabing good, we are talking about mga baligya, no? Pwede siya og mga asin, bitsin, mga suka, mga bugas, mga sugar, as long as nga naay ibaligya. Okay? In fact, goods can also be referred to services as masahe, manicure, pedicure, no? Sa ba mga review centers. So we have services. There are goods and there are demand for services. Okay? So quantity demanded of any good is the amount of good that buyers are willing to buy, willing and able to purchase. Amount of goods, no, ang atong gustong paliton. This is the quantity demanded. Ang nagdemand is usually ang mga consumers, no? But also there are some demands sa mga kumpanya, but in terms of raw materials ilang production. Okay? So the law of demand, so there is the law of demand, no? Law of demand, the claim that the quantity demanded of goods falls or decrease, no? Law of demand, quantity demanded of goods falls or decrease when the price of the good rises. Other things equal. So kung atong i-graph na siya in terms of x and y axis, no? Atong i-graph. So yung nga na siya. Sorry. Ay nga ni, no? Price dito sa x-axis is the quantity demanded. Kung atong i-graph, ang forma ana is ingon ana. Sorry, pababa na ingana. So balikan ako. So the law of supply and demand, ingon ana ang forma sa graph. This is the price and this is the quantity demanded. Okay? So inversely related. So kung mataas ang presyo, baba ang demand. Kung baba ang presyo, mataas ang demand. So ano siya. So of course, kung mas barato, so mapalitag daghan. Pero ang gidaghanon lang pod, depende ra pod sa pangangailangan. Di ta pwede mapalit og sobra sa atong kailangan tungod kay atong resources is limited. So ano siya. may sinabi dito na other things equal, so meaning to say, we have an assumption that the price increase, demand decreases, assuming that other things equal. So ang atong tan-aw diri nga factor, ang tan-aw lang nato diri is ang price lang. Kung molihok ang price sa ka produkto, maapektuhan o mababa ang demand nato ana sa produkto. So kana lang atong gitan-aw. So walay labot, wala to gitan-aw ang mga panahon sama sa kanang ulan, wala to gitan-aw, no? Wala to gitan-aw ang mga uban pang kahimtang. So ang other, assuming nga walay, all other things are equal. So since other or ceteris paribus ang tawag, no? Other things equals or the ceteris paribus. Sorry. Ceteris paribus. Ang meaning dyan sa other things equal sa Latin word. Okay? So, ang gitanaw sa law of demand, ang atong gitanaw ang price lang ug ang quantity demanded. So, wala ta nagtanaw ban pa mga butang. So, other things are held constant or ceteris paribus. So, tingnan for that. Okay, how do we express demand? So, we can express demand in terms of models or assumption. So, you can express demand in terms of demand schedule. So, ato siyang mapakita ang naong sa demand in terms of demand schedule. Pag sinabing demand schedule, it is in the form of table, no? Table na siya. So, ang demand schedule is a table that shows the relationship between the price of a good and the quantity demanded. Yung sinabi natin kanina, ang relationship ng price and quantity demanded of that good is that inversely related ng relationship nila. So, relationship ng demand, okay, demand and price, ang relationship nila is inversely related. Ibig sabihin, kung mataas ang presyo ng goods, mababa ang demand ana nga good. Considering all other things are equal or ceteris paribus, all other things are constant, price lang og demand ang gitanaw because later on, so kung ato ning i-vary ng ubang factor, so dili siya ceteris paribus, so iba na pud ang pag-usapan natin diyan. Okay? So again, a demand schedule, a table, it is a table that shows the relationship between the price of a good and the quantity demanded, which in fact sinabi natin sa law of supply, kung mataas ang price, mababa atong demand ana nga commodity. Okay? Inversely related. So example, there's a GB demands for soya milk, no? Kung tanaw nimo ang price diri 0 increasing 0 to 6, no? Nagkataas ang presyo, pero kung tanaw nimo ang quantity demanded is nagkababa. So kaya nga sinabi dito, yun ana ang ilang graph. Price, demand. Kung magkataas ang price, magkababa ang demand. So this is inversely related ang ilang relationship, no? Or negatively related. Inversely related ang price and quantity demanded based on the demand and supply. So this is now the demand schedule. Itong table na to, no? Itong table na to, this is now the demand schedule. The way by which we, one of the ways by which we are able to express our demand. So this is the demand schedule, a table form. Okay? So notice that GB's preference obey the law of demand. Sinabi sa law of demand, when price increase, demand decrease. Held all other things constant, all other things equal or ceteris paribus. So without considering other factor, only price and demand ang atong gitanaw. Okay? So on the other side, if we have demand schedule, we also have demand curve, no? Pag sinabing curve, we're talking about the graph, no? Graph. or tawag nito, di na magi. Okay. Pag sinabing curve, demand curve, we have demand schedule and we have demand curve. This one is the demand schedule, no, ito. And with the demand curve is the graphical form. Okay. So this is now the demand curve, no. This one is a demand curve, ito. So this is the demand curve in a form of or demand graph in a graphical presentation, no, in terms of x and y. If you can observe, ang price na dito sa y-axis and ang quantity demanded is na sa x-axis because ang price is dependent on the demand. So that's why the price ibutan dito sa y variable. Okay? Because the price is dependent on the demand. Okay? This is now the demand. So again, the demand schedule is a table and the demand curve is graphical presentations of that table. So katulad nito, itong table na to, pag i-graph na to siya, muna yung resulta din no? So but they are just conveying, they are just saying the same information. Okay, pareho lang. Lain-lain lang ang pag-express sa presentation. But they are just simply the same. Okay? Okay. And other than that, no, we can also express the demand all in a form of equation. So, wala din nakalagay, no? But anyway, so we can express demand in terms of schedule, in terms of demand curve, and also in terms of model or equation. Okay, or model or equation. Kasi itong line na to, for example, this is a demand curve or a demand line na ito siya. We can express that mayroong equation of the line, no? Mayroong equation of the line. So equation of the line. And that line is the demand. So therefore, we have an equations of a demand line, equation of demand. So we can express our demand in terms of table with a schedule, and we can also express our demand in terms of curve, and also we can express our demand in terms of equation of the line or the model, no, we can express that. And in fact, I don't know if you can still remember that the equation of the line is equals to y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the intercept. But I won't deal that deeply today, maybe on our succeeding discussion. But just for today, it suffice to note that the curve could be expressed in terms of schedule, in terms of curve, and in terms of equation, based on the equation of the line. Okay. So we have determined here the market demand versus individual demand. Okay. So take note that the demand is inversely related with the price, considering all other factors are constant or ceteris paribus. Okay, so the market demand versus the individual demand. Pag sinabi nating individual demand, this is demand of individual firm, individual household. Pag atong i-mix na to ang ilang tanang demand sa household, sa firm, so magiging market demand yon. Ibig sabihin ng market demand is a bigger picture of the demand. Okay? So the quantity demanded in the market, so the quantity demanded in the market is the sum of the demanded by all buyers at its price. No, ang atong demand, the sum of the demand of all the buyers, no? Na example din, suppose the GB, no, a company, suppose a GB and beans are the only buyers in the soya. So, balik sa soybean, nya duha lang ka tao ang buyers sa soybean. Of course, ang market demand is the sum of the GB's demand as well as the beans demand. Pag totalan nila, naging market demand. Pag sinabing market demand, total demand of all individuals, all the firms in the market. So, yan po. Okay? So, just very simple. Okay? This is now the table of the a schedule of the market demand and individual demand. And we can express that demand in terms of the market demand corn of soya. So, market demand of soya, ito yon, no? Ito. This is the market demand. We try to express that in terms of a table and the curve. So, there you have it. So, this is the demand schedule of the market of soya, and this is the demand curve. Sinabi ko kanina, because this is the line, there must be an equation of this line, which is a demand equation. So, but again, we will not be dealing that equation on this chapter, maybe later on. Okay. So there are some demand curve shifters. So meaning to say, itong demand curve line, pwede siya mabalhin padulong dito sa tuo, abot siya dire, no? Pwede po siya mabalhin dire patalikod sa wala. Mahimo siyang padulong dire sa likod. Nga na mga factors nga nung mo forward to the right and backward to the left of the original demand line. So there are some curve shifters. Number one that would affect or that will shift the curve is the number of buyers. So kung daghan ang buyers, mataas ang demand. So ang demand mabalhin dito padulong dire, no? So okay. So suppose the number of buyers increase, then at its price, quantity demanded will increase. For example, in this example, no? So shift to the right. So in this example, nagdaghan ang mga buyers, so ang demand increased by 5 from 25 to 30. So that's number of buyers, shift the demand curve to the right. Okay? And demand curve shifters also income. So income, what happens to the demand curve when people changes income or increases or decreases their income? Okay, demand for a normal good is positively related to income. So ang demand daw sa normal good is positively related to income. But what is a normal good? Pag sinabing normal good, these are the goods and services, or these are the products, normal goods. These are the products, goods or services that we normally buy when we have, shall we say, kanang okay lang atong income, okay lang atong kwarta, no? We usually buy every day. So, okay? So, demand for a normal good is positively related to an income. So, increase in income causes an increase in quantity demanded at its price, shift the curve to the right. Now, kung taas tong income, o taas pa tong demand, so ang curve, demand curve, mabalhin po padulong sa right, pareha atong daghan og buyers, no? Kaya mudaghan man ang demand ko daghang kwarta ang tao. When we have a normal good, okay, again, normal good, ito yung what we usually buy kung ang atong kwarta, atong income, okay lang, no? Pero kung gamay ra tag income, manihit na itong kwarta, limited kitong kwarta, so di ta makapalit itong what we normally buy, we normally bought. So mamili na natin sa mahinang klase, barato nga klase. So katong mga inferior goods. No, kung marong normal goods, meron tayong inferior goods. Okay? Kining inferior goods mo ni atong paliton kung ang atong income magkabulyas, so gamay-gamay na lang. For example, kung atong kwarta okay, atong sweldo okay, so mapalit ta og mga karne, no, taglitson, palit ta og mga sabana, no, mga maayo nga sudan, normal goods kay normal lang ang atong income. Pero kung atong income nihit, gamay na kaayo, so di ta makapalit og mga karne, litson, or what we normally buy during normal income. So mapalit na lang ta og bulad, pulat na lang ta og mga tinapa, mga dilata, so which we considered as inferior goods because gamay ra tag kwarta. So medyo mahinang klase ang atong napalit, tungod kay kulang atong kwarta, ang atong income nagkaabulyaso. So take note the difference between normal good and inferior goods. Okay? So again, the demand for normal good is positively related to income. Kung daghan taas ang income, so we usually increase our demand for mga normal goods which is of high quality. So normal goods. Okay? So kung mataas tong income, ang demand shift to the right, no? For example, shift to the right, ingani atong i-drawing na to ha. Kung mauna ang imuhang graph ganina, this is the price and this is the min and this is the original, sorry. Wala na. Anyway, so this is the demand and this is the curve. Unya na increase ng price, okay na nga curve, mabalhin na siya padulong dire, pikas. Okay? Demand for inferior good is negatively related to income. So kung demand for inferior good is negatively related to income, meaning to say kung mababa ang ato ang income, mutaas ang atong demand sa inferior good. Kay gamay ra man tag income, so daghan tag demand dito sa mahinang klase nga mga goods and services, kay mura atong makaya kay mga baratuhon to sila. Okay? So kung atong balik ko nako, the demand for inferior good is negatively related to income. An increase in the incomes shift the demand curve, the demands for inferior goods to the left. Again, so an increase in income, kung taas kag income, dili kay ka mapalit atong inferior goods. Kaya among usually nga paliton katong mga maayo nga quality which is the normal good. So again, an increase in income shift the demand curves of the inferior goods to the left. So mean to say, kung mataas ang income, so mababa ang imuhang demand sa mga inferior good. Kinaam kay kwarta, mas prefer nimo tong mga maayo or mga normal goods of high quality. So yan na siya. So bali ingon na ani, no? Okay. This is the demand. This is the income. Okay. Sinabi to, increase in income. For example, mo ni ang original nimo nga this is the price. This is the original demand curve. Kung increase ang imong income increase, okay, ang demand ng inferior goods mo atras. Okay? Mobalhin siya diri sa left. Going to the left because dili na ka mo palit og mahinang klase, kinaamang kay kwarta, mas prefer nimo mapalit atong mga high quality o mataas nga kalidad nga mga produkto kinaamang kay kwarta. Sa ato pa, kung taas kag income, ang imong demand sa mga inferior good mubaba, pero mataas ang imong demand sa mga normal good. Kinaamang kay ikabayad, kinaamang kay kwarta. So timan na ha. So that's it. Okay? So another curve shifters is the prices of related goods. So unsa ba ang mga related goods, no? Panalitan. Ang kuan, kape o sugar. Kung mataas ang presyo sa sugar, apektuhan ang imuhang pagpangapi. Kung mataas pod ang presyo sa kape, maapektuhan pod imong pagpalit og pagdemand og sugar. Yan na siya, no? So, prices of related goods. For example, we have different goods. We have substitute goods. So, two goods are substitute. If an increase in the price of one causes the increase in the demand of the other. Example substitute is rice and corn. Okay? Sorry. Rice and corn. They are both substitute goods. Meaning to say, kung mamahal ang humay nga gamay ra mo income, So mo settle down na lang ka sa corn anyway mo kaon man kag corn kaya substitute sila. Pero kung mobrato ang rice, so di na pud ka mapalit og corn, balik na pud ka sa rice. So they are substitute. Another mga substitute goods nga related, for example, sa shampoo, no, we have Pantene and cream silk. Kung mobrato ang cream silk, so di na ko Pantene. Kung mobrato ang Pantene, balik ko sa Pantene. So ibig sabihin na related goods. So maka-apekto po na siya sa ato, makaship po na sa demand curves. Okay? Kung naay mga substitute goods, na po yung mga complement goods. Ibig sabihin partner. For example, mga partner gid na to is kape o sugar. Partner gid na sila. So dili pwede nga mga pika nga walay sugar. Maliban na lang kung naay 3 in 1 kay kauban na. But usually palit kag kape, kailangan gyud mag sugar. They are complement. Ma-complete ang function kung palitan nimong duha. So two goods are complements if an increase in the price of one causes a fall in demand of the other. So another example is kanang bitang margarine o pan. So di ba partner sila? Okay nga ni. Sa kape. Okay, sinabi dito, if an increase in the price of one, kung mutaas ang presyo sa isa ka complement niya, mo full ang demand sa other complement niya. Pananglitan, kung mataas ang presyo sa kape, mababa ang imong demand sa sugar. Kaya wala na makibutang ang sugar. Again, kung mataas ang presyo sa kape, mababa ang imong demand sa sugar, kaya wala na makibutang ang sugar. Because ang kape kailangan mag-sugar. So, kung mataas ang presyo sa kape, so di na ka mapalit og kape. Tungod kaya wala ka nagpalit og kape, di na po ka mag-demand og sugar, kaya wala naman kay sugaran. Wala naman kay butang ang sugar. Okay? So, yan po ang ibig sabihin ng complements. Marami pang mga complement products. Saan sa baba? So, basta partner sila, di sila pwede bulago, no? Ano siya? So, it will shift the curves either to the left or to the right depending on the types of product. Pero kung sinabi dito, kung sila daw, kung substitute daw sila, an increase in the price of the other, increase in the demand of the other. So, dili sa substitute, kay mong tanawon, kung ang graph sa substitute, kung i-graph nimo yung nani. Nang forma silang graph sa between substitute is, for example, this is the price of the other product and the demand of the substitute product. Price ni siya. So, if the increase in the price of the product causes the increase in demand, so yung ana ang ilang forma sa graph, no? Yung ana. This because kini siyang complementary ang graph niya price ni and demand of the other product, price of the other product. Ang forma sa ilang relationship is yung ana. Okay? This one is positively related. This one is inversely or negatively related. Itong graph na to. So, tignan mo na. So, other demand curve shifters either to the left or to the right is the taste, no? Itong panlasa, no? Kung mausab ang imong panlasa, so di na ka mo demand. Di ka ganahan, so di na ka mapalit, kaya di mo kaganahan. So, kung di ka ganahan na, dati ganahan ka, kung di ka ganahan, ang imuhang demand mo atras pa padulong sa wala, no? So, and also other demand curve shifters is expectation in the future. Okay. If people expect their incomes to rise, kung nahibalo ka ang imong income is murag ma-increasean kag tag 2,000, 3,000 sa semana, if the people expect their incomes to rise, their demand for meals at expensive restaurants may increase, no? Daghan man tag kwarta sa kaon tas gawas. Sa kaon tas Jollibee, no? Daghan man tag kwarta, ang demand nato sa restaurant ma-increase kay tas nag-income. Pero kung wala ka income, so ginamos lang ta, hindi lang ta balay, no? Sukaan ta, asin lang ta. So yung nga na. So tingnan, so it will affect ang income and expectation also affect or shift the demand, no? Either mabalhin ang demand nimo dito sa wala or padulong sa tuo kumpara sa original nga curve. Okay, so in summary, we have in here. Okay, so in summary, variables that influence the buyers. Okay, price, for example. Okay, ano yun? So price, for example. Okay, so a variable price or a factor price, a change in the price causes a movement along the demand curve. Okay, changes in price causes a movement along the demand curve. Ibig sabihin ng along the demand curve, di ba? Law of supply, ganun man, no? So, ang price, mag-change ang price na alang din sa along the demand curve. Dili mo balhin ang curve sa wala, dili mo balhin ang curve sa tuo. Kung mag-change man ang price na alang aning nga linya, no? Dili siya mo hawa aning linya, ha? So, change in price causes a movement along the demand curve. Along. Dili siya mag-shift. Yeah, pero katong mga number of buyers, shift the demand curve. Pag sinabing shift the demand curve, kanang curve, mabalhin dito sa wala, or mabalhin dito sa tuo, no? Mabalhin dire, or kaya mabalhin dito. So, demand shifters, itong buyers, income, price, related goods, taste, and expectations. These are the shifters of the demand curves, but the movement along the demand curve is price lang. Okay, take note for that. So, I guess, I made it clear for you as to the concept of the model's presentation and as well as the concept of the demand and the different demand shifters and how the demands affected by the inferior goods, the normal goods, as well as the substitute goods, and as well as the complementary goods. So, well, I want you to please master on what is the demand, what is our demand for inferior goods, for normal goods, and related to income, as well as what happens to the demand and price of the substitute goods, so and as well as the inferior goods. So klarohan na ninyo, no? Inferior goods, mao atong paliton kung ang atong income is gamay. Normal goods, mao atong paliton kung atong income is taas. Sa ato pa, kung taas itong income, ang demand nato sa normal good, increase. Kaya gantang makapalit sa maayong quality. Kung mababa ang ato ang sweldo, kung mababa ang atong income, so mo settle down na lang ta sa mahinang quality, which is the inferior goods. Nya, ang price o demand sa substitute good is pananglitan. Kung mataas, kung magsulti ta og mga substitute goods like rice and corn, kung mataas ang presyo sa humay, mo increase atong demand sa corn. Kaya di naman ito makaya ang humay. Corn na makaya ito kaya substitute man sila. Pero sa inferior goods, kung sama sa kape o sa sugar, kung mataas ang presyo sa kape, o mababa ang atong demand sa sugar. Okay, take note for that. And I guess that is all for this session. And please do review and study more. You can read more sa internet, asa pa. And I want you to contemplate in every economic decisions that we have. For example, kung maadto mo sa supermarket, maadto mo sa grocery. So try to think of ano yung sinabing inferior goods, ano yung sinabing normal goods, ano yung sinabing substitute, ano yung mga complementary goods. Okay? So I guess that is all for today, and please do listen to our succeeding discussion. Thank you so much.